Hey folks, I'm Chuck Black. We're doing Quokka Prime from scratch, and today's episode is about our development environment. Now, the first thing to be aware of when it comes to your development environment is the hardware on which you will be running. So here you can see I'm actually in Windows 10, which is my host operating system, the operating system that I use for doing all of my daily stuff, which is not involved with coding. And you can see it's a decent sized system. It's an Intel Core i7. It has 4 cores. Probably the most important thing is the memory. You can see I have 16 gig of memory. If you're going to use virtual machines, you probably need to have at least 12, if not 16 or more gig of RAM in order to run your host operating system as well as your guest operating system. In my case, my guest operating system is going to be an Ubuntu system, and that's where I do software development. But these are kind of the hardware characteristics that I use in my development. Now, the second thing to be aware of is your host operating system. And when I say host operating system, what I mean is just the operating system that is running on your laptop or desktop machine or whatever it might be. My laptop on which I'm running, as you can see, is running Windows 10. Now you can run on a Mac, you can actually run on a Linux type of machine as well. That's not required that you be one thing or another, but for my development environment, I have Windows as my host operating system on which all of my Chrome and all the other applications that I might be running for kind of day-to-day type stuff is. And then for my software development, I'm running in a virtual machine. But like I say, your host can pretty much be anything that you want. Now, the third thing to be aware of is your virtualization environment. I tend to favor Virtualbox and use it whenever I'm not forced to do VMware. I'm not prejudiced one way or the other. You can use whatever you choose. I've just used Virtualbox because it was free, and I've gotten used to it over the last 10 or 12 years. So Virtualbox, as you see over here, the application, what will happen is you will have one or more virtual machines that normally will be powered off or saved, and you will spin them up when you want to do your software development. And so you can see I have my Quokka Ubuntu 20. That's where I've done all of my 52 weeks of Python and Quokka Prime work. The thing that this one is, Quokka Prime Ubuntu 20, is where I'm beginning to spin up a new VM to show you guys how to develop Quokka Prime from scratch. So I'm doing that. If you'd seen my life before, I would have many virtual machines from many different environments. Mine all happen to be Quokka related at this particular point in time. But this is what it will look like. You will start it, and then it will run, and you will be able to do both your host operating system as well as your guest, which is going to be the virtual machine that you will be running. So if you're going to use Virtualbox, all you have to do is download whatever is appropriate for your laptop OS or your desktop OS, whatever you're using to do this development, and you will install it, and you will have an empty one of these things over here. Now, the next thing you need to do, again, if you're following the way that I'm doing things, is you need to create your virtual machine from an Ubuntu image. So down here in the download Ubuntu desktop, you can download. This will give you an ISO file. And as you can see, I've done this a day or so ago. Here's my Ubuntu ISO file. And so I've downloaded that. And if you want to know how to create your VM from it, if I just Google creating Ubuntu VM in Virtualbox, there are many videos where people have gone over this, probably in way greater detail, and there's WikiHow and all this information about how to do that should you want to do it. But let me briefly go over what I do. What I do when I'm creating a new VM is I click here on New, and then I need to give this a name. I'll give it QP Ubuntu for now. I'm not going to finish this process. You'll see it was smart enough to know that this is a Linux Ubuntu version. The next thing it's going to do is ask me for memory, and I tend to need to have 6 gig or more, so I'm just going to do 6 for that. It's going to create a virtual hard disk now. Yeah, that's fine with me. I'm going to use VDI. That is going to be fine with me. I'm going to let it be dynamically allocated. I'm going to give it the size of, I don't know, let's say somewhere around here. Just choose something that's probably greater than 10. It's dynamically allocated, so it won't use up all that space and time. And bam, we've got it. Now the next thing that you need to do is, you don't actually have Ubuntu on here yet. So I need to click here on Ubuntu. I need to load the ISO image. And so what I'm going to do is I click on storage. That's what I just did. And here where it shows the image of the disk, which is this, what we're going to be using, I'm going to click on that. It's going to show me this. All I need to do is click on this disk again, and it's going to allow me to choose a file. Now I have already chosen this before because I just created it a while ago. But if you come in and you say choose a disk file, I go to downloads. Here's my ISO image right there. And at that point in time, I'm pretty much good to go. All I need to do is start this, and then it will go through the Ubuntu installation process. So you can just follow the instructions as you install Ubuntu, or you can consult the videos that go into it in greater detail. I'm showing you a super speeded up version of my own installation of this VM that I just talked about. Ubuntu will load itself onto the image in virtual machine memory, and then you'll go through a number of questions where it asks you if you want to try it or install it. You're going to be installing it, and so you will end up clicking on the Install Ubuntu button down there. After you have done that, then you will be asked a number of things, including what language are you using, what are the defaults. Pretty much you'll be taking the defaults for all of this stuff. Normal installation, the installation type, you're going to be erasing the disk. Don't worry, that's not erasing your whole hard drive. It's just erasing your virtual memory. And another warning, so it'll go through things like time zone, ask you to give it a name and a password, and then it will continue to load as you're doing this. There's a bunch of time spent copying files and doing various things to get your Ubuntu all loaded and ready to go. As it's doing this, it gives you advertisements for a lot of the wonderful stuff that's available with Ubuntu, in case you're interested in using it as your real desktop, which can be fun, although I found in my experience that certain applications that everybody uses that are kind of ubiquitous, like Microsoft apps, don't run quite as well in Ubuntu. You can see it's still continuing to load. As I mentioned, this is 10 times the normal speed, so it will go much slower. In real life, once it gets going on this, you can kind of walk away, have a cup of coffee, and then come back when it's done. Okay, I've now sped this up to 40 times normal. The point is, it will eventually get to the point where it says restart now. We will click on the button that says restart now, and once we've done that, we will have a fully operational Ubuntu VM on which we can write software and learn how to become a Python programmer. And that is what we'll be looking at in the next lesson. Hey, thanks for watching this episode on Quokka Prime from scratch. I'm Chuck Black. If you do have questions or comments, feel free to leave a message with this video. I'm also on Twitter at Chuck A. Black. If you want to send email with a question, comment, or just to say hi, the email address you can reach me at is python.52.weeks@gmail.com. Also, remember to subscribe to this channel. I hope these lessons are helping you to achieve your goals towards becoming a real software developer. So long for now, and see you at the next episode.